on the same night rather than in different gyms down the hall from each other. For example, Team A high school duel versus Team B will be held on the same night in the same gym as the junior high duel between Team A and B. The answer for this is that it is not a violation because it only involves Illinois teams, per the policy change for interstate events that require NFHS sanctioning. This type of event does not meet the NFHS sanctioning policy, therefore no changes to this kind of practice for a current school. Again, these are all Illinois junior high teams and all Illinois high school teams, so that is why this type of event would be allowed. The second situation, an IHSA member school is hosting a 16-team girls basketball tournament over Thanksgiving at their high school. The event is titled the Country Financial Turkey Tournament. School teams approved for competition from Missouri and Indiana are competing. Prior to this tournament beginning, on Saturday, the host school is going to contract a head-to-head local junior high game at the venue to maximize opportunity, court time, and exposure. This would be a violation. In Illinois, high school teams cannot be involved in any respect with the sanction. Any non-high school team cannot be involved in any respect with the sanction event. The difference between situation 1 and situation 2 is that situation 2 includes the teams from both Missouri and Indiana, therefore making it a violation. GoFan digital ticketing. The IHSA is proud to call GoFan its official digital ticketing provider after working with GoFan to provide digital tickets at several state series and state final events over the past year. Many schools have taken advantage of digital tickets due to its ease for both the school administration and for the fans. Its ability to provide an instant ticket audit while preventing schools from having to handle large amounts of cash, as well as its flexibility for special promotions and usage in non-sport activities like prom and graduation. If you want more information on how digital ticketing works, or if you want to make a switch and use GoFan as well, you can contact Matt Troha, and his information is on this slide, mtroha@ihsa.org. We're now going to spend a little time talking about some classification changes. Last year, the IHSA Board of Directors charged an ad hoc committee to examine 3 major topics: classification, the waiver process, and the success adjustment. After a series of meetings, the IHSA Board of Directors approved the 4 recommendations made by the ad hoc committee, with one exception. All of the recommendations will go into effect in the 2019-2020 school year. The first recommendation will create a 2-year classification cycle for member schools in all IHSA athletic and activity state tournaments. Schools will be assigned to a class based on an enrollment number that is the average of the school's previous fall housing enrollment reports. For the 2-year cycle, a school's fall housing report for the 2016-17 and 2017-18 school years will be averaged to calculate their enrollment number. All schools will remain in their assigned class in a given IHSA state series for the entire 2-year cycle, and schools will not move to a different class in between the years of a cycle. In terms of classification, some adjustments will be made for determining classification cutoffs in wrestling and all 3 and 4 class bracketed team sports. In wrestling, the smallest 40% of entered schools will become Class 1A. The next smallest 30% will be in Class 2A, and the remaining 30% will be in Class 3A. This change will go into effect with the 2018-19 school year. This only recommendation from the IHSA Ad Hoc Committee will be in effect this year. The intent of the change is to create a fuller, better bracket for Class 1A wrestling. For the sports of soccer, baseball, basketball, softball, and volleyball, identified fixed cutoffs will be used. The fixed cutoffs will be based on a formula that uses the 4-class sport with the least amount of participating schools and assigns entered schools into a tournament in the following manner, as you'll see on your slide. Class 1A, the smallest 27.5% of entered schools. Class 2A, the next 27.5%. Class 3A, the remaining 22.5%, and Class 4A the remaining 22.5%. So here, if this approach were used this school year, this slide illustrates what the cutoffs would have been in a 4-class sport that you see on the left-hand side, and then also in the sport of soccer that's listed on the right-hand side. Additionally, the IHSA Board of Directors approved the other 2 recommendations from the ad hoc committee. The first deals with the application of the multiplier. A 2-year and not a 4-year snapshot of non-boundaried schools program performance in a given IHSA state series will be used to determine whether or not the program will receive a waiver to the multiplier or not. For the first classification cycle, the performance of non-boundaried school programs in 2017-18 and 2018-19 school years will be used. All the criteria that will be used in making this determination can be found in the IHSA policy section, Policy 17, page 99 of the IHSA handbook. Similarly, the IHSA Ad Hoc Committee recommended a concern for the success adjustment, which will also use a snapshot of 2 years instead of the current 4-year cycle. In order to be moved up a class for a subsequent classification cycle, a non-boundaried school program will need to win 2 trophies in a given sport over 2 years of the classification cycle. In making both of the recommendations concerning the application of the waiver and success adjustment, the committee tried to create a process that takes a current view of non-boundaried school programs while accounting for and taking into consideration those situations where a group of students had 1 successful year in a given state series, and then the success is impacting other students at that school for a longer period of time. And this is our final classification slide. In closing, the ad hoc committee work, this slide shows the expected timeline for the release of the enrollment numbers and athletic and activity classification cutoffs to be announced for the first classification cycle. So more to come in the upcoming school years. For those of you that have been selected to host a state series event, this is an important change. The payment of all officials in state series contests will be handled in a different manner this year. Beginning this year, the IHSA will pay officials who work in IHSA state series contests directly through arbiter pay. So this means that tournament hosts will no longer be responsible for having checks ready for those officials when they arrive for a postseason regional, sectional, or super sectional game at your school. Schools wishing to learn more about arbiter pay and possible benefits to member schools can please contact the IHSA office. So if you're hosting an upcoming volleyball regional, or if you have a soccer regional or sectional, please know that the IHSA will directly be paying all of those officials that have been assigned to your sites for the state series. Safety and risk minimization. Safety and risk minimization has always been a priority for the IHSA membership, and the IHSA Sports Medicine Advisory Committee has been at the forefront of all of these initiatives, all of which have helped member schools administer their athletic programs. This slide illustrates some of the steps that SMAC, as we would call the Sport Medicine Advisory Committee, has taken to protect our student athletes. The IHSA SMAC will continue to monitor sports medicine trends in the future and bring about additional policy change considerations to the membership as necessary. So you'll see a lot of the concussion education and reporting data that has been required by our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. And then upcoming in 2019, which you'll hear a lot more about from Stacy Lambert and Kurt Gibson on our sports medicine team, there will be establishing weekly player limitations for football in 2019. So more to come on that. While there are inherent risks when students choose to participate in athletic programs at their high schools, the IHSA will continue to look at ways to minimize risk of that participation. Also in 2018-19, IHSA Sport Medicine Advisory Committee will likely discuss the following topics to further aid student safety: preseason acclimatization for sports other than football, AEDs, student athlete mental health, and opioid education. And finally, the IHSA is expected to offer a new state series for member schools in 2018-19 in esports. While more information will be made available to member schools later in 2018, it is expected that the IHSA will partner with Play Versus to conduct a regular season event and state series sometime in February and May of 2019. As the industry of online gaming is the fastest growing participation activity in the world, the IHSA is excited to offer this esports opportunity to its membership. The IHSA board is expected to take action on this program on October 10th at our board meeting, so stay tuned for additional information coming to your schools. Thank you for being a part of today's webinar. If you have not taken that survey that we sent to you after the new administrators workshop, please do so we can have some feedback. If you have any questions from today's webinar, I'll be available to take those, but we really appreciate you joining us. And if you have feedback on today's webinar, please send that via email to either myself. Can you get a digital copy of this presentation? Yes, we will be making that available for you. And I think Kurt is going to send out a link later today. Is that correct, Kurt? Any other questions from today? Janet, do you have any questions? David, anything that we can assist or help you with? Okay, thanks, Janet. Thanks for joining us this morning. Okay, thanks, David, and we will work on getting you a digital copy of today's presentation. Yeah, go Cards, go Cubs. Next year. I finally heard you too, David.
You heard me?
I heard you. I can hear you now.
Good. Oh, well, I can't say that any tears were shed in the A-Strike house last night when the Cubs lost. I'd be lying if I said there were.
I know. They just didn't have it this year like they did when they won the World Series. The bats were lacking.
Well, you know, as a lifelong Cardinal fan, growing up listening to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon, I'm not used to the Cardinals being in the playoffs. This was tough for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. How's everything else going in Roxana? Did you enjoy the workshop?
I really did. I got a lot out of that. As a guy that's running two different jobs, being an AD and being a principal, those workshops are really valuable for me. So thank you.
Good. All right. Well, if we can assist with anything else throughout the year, don't hesitate to send us an email or give us a call here at the office.
Yep, will do. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.